time in history. And then I get an email alert that there's an 18-year-old running for city council. So good for you. So I really want to hear about you, your background, and what makes you tick? What makes you feel that you're a good candidate for a position like this at such a young age? I think it's really inspiring as well. So again, feel free. And then this is going to be a tiny group, so anyone who wants to ask questions can. So tell us about yourself. We'd love to hear.
Definitely. I want to thank you so much for having me on today and giving me this opportunity to come to you guys and introduce myself. So my name is Seth Freeland. I am a lifelong New Yorker. I was born and raised in Fresh Meadows, Queens, in one of the many communities that covers in District 23. And I'm running for New York City Council. I'm 18-year-old. I just finished my first semester in college. And if elected, I'd be the youngest lawmaker in New York City. So this campaign is really looking to make history, and we're doing it from the ground up. I come from a background of two working class parents. I have three other siblings, two in college and one who attends a public school in the district. My mother's a teacher. My father is a manager at a printing store. They've really taught me and really imparted to me the struggles and some of the things that working class families have to go through. I started out in politics, and my summer between 8th grade and 9th grade, I was given an internship by Assemblymember David Weprin, and that is an internship I continued for 3 consecutive summers. And I got a lot of knowledge and experience from the internship. The assembly member did a lot and made sure that we got out there as much as we could. So we went to meetings with the governor, press events, press conferences, whatever it was. The assembly member got us out there and got us exposed as much as possible. And while at the office, I did a lot of legislative research. I was able to work on constituent cases, all which brought me closer to the pulse and the real needs of our district and our communities. Um, from there, I was appointed a Senate page by the Senator Schumer from New York, and I worked down in D.C. for a couple months serving the United States Senate. I was able to serve all 100 senators, but more specifically the Democratic caucus in the United States Senate, which again added another level of knowledge and experience that I got and was able to that really take back with me back home. And in my senior year of high school, I was appointed by Superintendent Junta of School District 26 as a student member to the Community District Education Council. And I think out of my 4 years, 5 years in politics and community service, that was definitely the most rewarding experience. I have a long history with the District 26 team. I am a mentor for the Student Leadership Project, which I started back in my freshman year of high school, which allows me to mentor and talk to student leaders from our elementary school to middle schools throughout District 26. And then my time on the Education Council, just another level where I was able to gain knowledge about what parents are going through, what our students are going through, what our teachers are going through throughout District 26 and throughout District 23. And I was able to visit classrooms and students in middle school, elementary school, and high school, and really talk to them. And there's so much you learn from students and their raw answers and their raw perspective that I really took with me and using to run on in this race. So that's how I got started. I was in student council in 8th grade, and I went on to do student council again in high school, serving as student government president. I'm ready to continue my fight and to advocate for young people and everyone that I can in the city council, especially our students.
It's just remarkable that at 18, I am really, really curious to know, where was that moment? Where was that like aha moment where you said, you know what, I'm going to get involved on a larger scale and I'm going to, do something public with making change? Where was that moment where you said, this is my calling and I'm going to run? Because truth be told, quite a few people are twice your age. I'm twice your age. Like, I do not have the guts to do this. So I'm just trying to understand, where was that moment coming from?
Right. Great question. And that's something that I think all candidates go through, that conversation you have with yourself about taking the step to run for office, making the sacrifice and committing this time and dedication. But I this was something that, it's been on the back of my mind for a long time. I was that 5th grader who didn't want to be a police officer or a lawyer, but I wanted to be Secretary of State, which definitely made for a unique upbringing for my parents. So this is something that I've been thinking about, during my time in Weapons Office, during my time in these community organizations. I have been exposed to the different issues that different stakeholders in our communities are facing, from working families to small businesses to our schools. And I think my frustration with seeing the same problems persist and the same problems not fixed and the same elected officials at election time come again and again, telling constituents that I will run to fix this, I will run to make sure that our schools are fully funded, I'll run to make sure that we support small businesses and we open as many as we can, but the most you get is a library with their name on it. And that is something that is disheartening, and it turns a lot of people away from the political system. It turns a lot of people away from getting engaged. And my moment in this was, I think it's time for new leadership. I think it's time for new leadership that understands the needs of the district, that puts district needs first, and will put priorities first that will benefit the daily lives of our constituents first. And that's what I'm running for. And my frustration just with our elected officials in previous years and that we've had is just, it's enough. And I think time is up, and it's time to have a younger generation who is honest and will put, the interest of the people before their own. It is what really got me into this.
So what's on your platform? What are different elements that you're supporting and that you'd like to, become a change maker in?
Right. So I'm focusing on four major things for my platform. The first one being education, because of my such strong love for public schools, especially in our school district that is in District 23 for City Council. I'm really fighting to fully fund our schools. It is sad. We have some of the best performing schools in Eastern Queens, but there are some of the most underfunded. And this has been a historic problem. And our schools should not have to rely on getting grants and competing for grants and state and writing grants to our local elected officials and organizations, and fighting for money that will help buy new laptops or new electronics for the classrooms. Students in school should have the money that they need and the resources that they need to make sure that their students are as successful as possible. So I'm really fighting to fully fund our schools, and that's looking at the way that they're allocated from the state. I want to fight to make sure that our schools get that money that they're owed from the state. And I really do think that we need to empower community education councils and our local superintendents when it comes to advocating for the needs of our district. I'm fully focused on addressing vaping and drug use by our youth in schools, the targeting of youth by these juuling companies and e-cigarette companies is something that we really need to look at, and the problem has only gotten worse. I am a strong supporter for parents and students being able to keep control of their education and make the decisions for their students that they think is best. So I am a strong supporter for the specialized high school exam, and making sure that these parents have access to these schools, that these students continue to have access to these schools, but at the same time making um, test prep more accessible for lower income families, and really looking at why students want to leave their local high schools. Why are they traveling to different schools? And we need to look at the type of programs and academic programs and rigor that our high schools are offering to our students. And also just accessibility. Eastern Queens, sometimes we have a lack of high schools, or we have high schools that are overcrowded. And that doesn't make for a successful school where a student gets that personalized education that they deserve. So again, I'm for at the SHSAT. I'm for, um, you know, parents' choice and making sure that they have the right to, find what's best for their student. Because the last thing we want are for students to leave the public school system, especially with the great public schools we have in New York City. I support free community programs for working class families in the district, in school and out of school programs, from free tennis to what childcare programs, because we have a working class district. We have parents who are out there working, and if anything, we've seen in this pandemic, we've seen the need for childcare grow. So I'm fully committed to funding community programs on the city council level, and making sure that our parents have some type of childcare for them while they return back to work. I'm fully for reopening schools safely. I do think that our students need to get back in school. I think the gap that we're experiencing is really going to have irreparable damage on our students and their growth. And I'm fully supportive of looking into reopening schools if our Catholic schools and our private schools can do it, there's no reason that our public schools, especially in Eastern Queens, can't. And at the same time, we need to look at the social and emotional needs of our students. And sitting behind a screen for 6-7 hours a day it is not helping them and is not good for their mental health. And I am for making sure and fully making sure that all of our students have access to Wi-Fi and technology, as long as the pandemic is around. And again, I'm also for making CUNY free for all New York City residents. Another area that we're focused on is small businesses and making sure that they have what they need now, they get the economic relief they need after the pandemic and during the pandemic. I am for providing rent relief for small businesses. I'm for providing payroll relief for small business owners so that they can maintain workers and make sure workers are getting those checks at the end of those weeks. And I do believe one of the biggest things that a city council, an elected official, has to do is advocate to not just the city council, but to all levels of government. And one of the things I would do as a city council member is advocate for Congress and the state to pass, things like the Restaurant Act, which provide direct aid and stimulus to our small businesses. And in the city council, if I was there, I would be voting for the passage of the Small Business Job Survival Act. Another big thing that we have going on in Eastern Queens is transportation, or really the lack of public transportation in these parts of Queens. And this is a personal issue to me because, I was a high schooler less than a year ago, and I was a high schooler who had to wait 30 to 40 minutes to get a public bus, getting home, getting to school. And if I didn't get it at the right time, if I didn't come at those peak hours, I'd be waiting 30, 40 minutes in rain and snow, whatever it was. And that's not acceptable because we have so many families that rely on public transportation to get to work. We have senior citizens who rely on health aides coming to them through public transportation. And this has been a historic problem with Queens, and especially Eastern Queens, and one that elected officials have promised to fight and fix. But for decades, this problem has persisted. So, in the city council, I'm fully against any unfair MTA fare hikes, especially now when our working families do not need an extra expense. I do want to see an expansion of MTA bus service and in Eastern Queens, making buses more frequent and adding routes that would make it more accessible for our families to get to, but also for expanding and protecting gig workers so that our Uber drivers, our Lyft drivers who have really provided an alternate vital form of transportation because of the lack of public transportation. So I am for protecting their rights, expanding their rights, and giving them access to sick paid leave. My last of the four major issues that we're looking at is climate and preservation. We have some of the best parks in the district, and we have some of the biggest. We have Cunningham Park, we have Alley Pond Park, all which provide incredible and vast activities and programs to the surrounding communities. So I'm fully for expanding the programs and activities that they offer, making sure that they're protected and cleaned. I believe in reinvesting in the cleanup of the Long Island Sound and Alley Pond Park, and expanding the wildlife protection that Alley Pond Park offers. I am for expanding the city's proposed resiliency wall to include the outer boroughs, especially Queens, so we can better protect the city and property of our families and our communities, so that they can withstand the changing climate conditions. And I am for, and one of the first bills that I put into the city council when elected is a bill to transition all public buildings, including public schools and jails, to sustainable and clean energy sources. So those are the four things that we're really focusing on getting out there. Again, these are issues that that I've gone out there and seen and heard from our families that they're facing. So we're really running to put the district first and the people's issues first.
So it's almost, I mean, it's obviously no secret that, I'm obviously very concerned about the future of the education in New York City. I have my own two children. I actually have one in the way. So I'm very concerned about what is going on just in general, just the mass exodus from New York City with regards to the schools. And I almost want to call it a yo-yo where, schools are open, schools are closed, schools are open, schools are closed. And something else that's just extremely concerning is these unilateral decisions that are being made by New York City Bill de Blasio. And then you're kind of catching up to whatever's on his mood that day. Right. So what do you feel that you would be able to do, in your position of city council in returns to kind of restoring faith in the public school system? Because right now there's certainly a lot of confusion and I think distrust is a very good choice of words in terms of the future of the education system. It was just announced, to what extent you're aware, it was just announced a day ago that there will be no G&T program now for younger children. Apparently that was a permanent change. And, here we are, I'm well aware that that offers pipelines and confidence and self-esteem building for children. I would have thought that there would be more of these programs, not fewer. So it's just very mind-boggling, especially myself being an educator. I went to the New York University School, the Steinhardt School of Education. I'm a child of educators. I'm a child of immigrants as well. What's going on right now, and I think I speak on behalf of many people, is just extraordinarily frustrating, where there is so much instability with the future of education. To what extent can you kind of use your platform, if elected, to assist with almost providing some sort of stability during such a chaotic time in history, and decision makers where we're very confused by the decisions, especially as of recent during a pandemic?
Right. No, that's a great concern, and it's a troubling concern too. One of the things that we got to see, well, I got to see while on the Education Council, were these policy decisions coming down the pipeline with little to none parent input, little to none student input, and that's troubling that they are governing and making decisions without input from our families and those who it will be affecting. I am troubled to hear that the mayor and chancellor are getting rid of the gifted and talented program. I do not believe eliminating a program or something that provides families with another opportunity for academic rigor is something that we should be doing. I think we need to look at elevating and expanding access to these programs, not getting rid of it. And we have seen an exodus of parents leaving the public school system and putting their kids in private school, and that's a problem. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I do not believe that we should be limiting parents' options. We should be giving them and their families and students the option and standards that we can meet up. Some students are want more academic rigor. Some parents want some more academic rigor for their students, and the city's job and the Department of Education's job is to provide that. So the DOE has been, has had some failed leadership. I definitely believe that there's a lack of transparency, and we've had failed leadership, and they really failed our teachers and our parents and our students. And I do not believe that, all school districts are the same. They aren't, and we shouldn't be governing, and the DOE should not be governing as if all school districts are the same. And so again, one of the things, the biggest things I believe in is shifting the balance of power, shifting where policy decisions are made. Like I said, I would love to see community education councils and our superintendents have more say when it comes to allocating for resources and policy implementation, because they know the needs of the district. They know what our parents need. They know what our schools need. They know what our students needs. So like I said, I will make sure in the city council that any bill that comes before the council to get rid of this specialized high school or defund them or, eliminate support for them is something that I could not stand for. And, I would definitely propose a bill that would, make sure the DOE shares the power, and the power is reallocated and balanced out to our superintendents and community education councils. And I think that's where it starts. It's really looking at the structure of the DOE, where the decisions are being made, and changing where the decisions are being made so that more input is put in from our communities and more power is handed back to our local educators who know what their schools need.
I very much admire that you are, pushing that. It's very concerning who's able to make the decisions, and then we're kind of just all sitting ducks and following along with these plans. It's really just, shaken to a point. This is a tremendous, shockwave to many families in New York City, especially families who, pay taxes and work and do what they need to do. In terms of your district and the schools, can you just specify what areas do you cover in terms of just voting and voters? What schools, what districts, just so that we're all aware?
Right. So the largest school district in that the Council District 23 represents is 26. We dip in a little bit to District 25 and a little bit of District 24 on the southern end. And the neighborhoods we present are Bayside Hills, Belrose, Douglaston, Flora Park, Fresh Meadows, Glen Oaks, Hollis Hills, Holliswood, Little Neck, New Hyde Park, Oakland Gardens, and Queens Village. And these areas and communities are infamous. Our public schools are infamous for being some of the best academic performing schools and some of the best programs offered. And District 26, a lot of our families send their kids to specialized high schools, send their kids to gifted and talented programs. And like I said, the DOE should be doing everything they can to help meet the standards of students and provide the students and families with an education they can be proud of and that they want.
So the point where you are right now, would you be able to, again, hitting on education, because I do want to tackle that. There's so much concern that the mayor is now going to try to eradicate just excellence in education, lowering standards in education. Can you just specify what can you do to almost stop the man from continuing, this torpedo, this war against excellence in education?
Right, and I think that starts with introducing a bill in the city council to really reshape the DOE and where the balance and the power comes from. I believe that our superintendents and our community education council, these organizations and the groups that are elected by parents in the district, to represent the families, they're not being heard, and that is something that's not okay. And we have seen time and time again throughout this pandemic that they're using this pandemic as an excuse to not listen to parents, to not get input, and that's what's not okay. And I would introduce a bill that would give our education councils, our local superintendents who are in touch with their schools, who are in touch with their parents, the power to and have a say when it comes to advocating for resources and the policy implementations and how to implement that policy. So because, like I said, all of New York City is not the same. All New York City districts are not the same. They all need different priorities and all the different priorities. And there's no reason that District 26 and its families should be burdened with a policy that does not represent them and a policy that they do not want.
What can we do to support you? What's the next step? How do we go about supporting your causes, your beliefs, your, hopes to be elected to city council for your district?
So, one of the things is when you're a younger person, sometimes you already have like a streak against you because a lot of time people are a little hesitant to support someone so young. But I come from the belief that age does not necessarily equate to wisdom, and that if you out there and you're talking to families, you're talking to small business owners, you're talking to your neighbors about what is going on, then you can advocate for them. So one of the best ways to get involved is at our website, brelandforqueens.com. And it is sad, but a lot of what we can do relies on fundraising and getting out there. We like I said, we have a mark against us because of my age and the fact that I don't come from a political family. I come from a mother who is an educator and a working class family who doesn't have all this money to spend. So I think that one of the biggest ways and the ways that I could appreciate it is by donating and helping us, make this reality, helping us to make this campaign, this historic campaign, a success and victory, so that we can go to the city council, that we can stand up to the mayor, that we can stand up to the DOE, and get the district and get the future that our district deserves.
So the first step would be to help with a fundraising, and then I'm assuming, do you need any other forms of assistance just so that we get a clearer picture of what we can do as a community to, help support your causes?
So again, volunteering, if you can't donate, I understand it's a very, economic stressful time for a lot of families. So just donating your time to phone bank with us, to get out there and help when we go out there, to get petition signatures, to go out there and help us when we're handing out palm cards and talking to small businesses and local businesses. Volunteers really do help with this cause. This is a grassroots campaign. Like I said, we were running from the ground up. This was something that is not coming from huge institutional support or big money. So just, volunteering or donating, whatever you can do to give back, telling your friends about it, sharing our page, liking our social media posts, whatever it is, just getting involved and making our campaign as known as possible will help tremendously and making this campaign a success.
Do you see yourself eventually like running for mayor or taking any kind of higher position beyond city council? Or are you, again, is this something that you feel is just a stepping stone for bigger changes that you'd like to see down the road?
I think that I'm right now focused on this race and I'm focused on this seat. And I think what we need right now is somebody who is not thinking about the next election, who isn't thinking about the next opportunity, because I think that's how we get elected officials who are less worried about them, about the district, and more worried about themselves. And I have about 9 other opponents, and a lot of them have ran before, and are generic candidates and have promised the same thing over and over again. And the one thing that I don't hear are policies coming from them that really represent what the district is going through and what our families are going through. So, if I'm elected, I promise to serve all, it's a weird election year. So I'm going to be serving a 2-year term and then run again for another 2-year term. So I promise to, spend my entire term in office and working for our families. So right now I'm just focused on, using the city council, using my position to get as much as possible done for my constituents.
I can't thank you enough for this incredible time. And I definitely, the parents, if you could just type thank you into the chat. This has been extremely enlightening and informative. And I'm very grateful that you made time, just to communicate and obviously to share this and to allow for this to be a recording that is shareable. We will be posting this on the YouTube page at Queller Prep. And I'm just very grateful that, we were able to reach out, because as a learning center, it's been, especially from the end of academia, it's really been devastating to observe this yo-yo taking place right now with how the school system is running and functioning. And I just think so many parents are just heartbroken knowing that their children are not being challenged and there's not enough there. Again, I think that some families and some children would like to volunteer and, help support your cause. We happen to have quite a lot of teenage interns, students rather, at Queller, and they would like to intern, they would like to volunteer. I think that a lot of youth, and I very much believe in youth empowerment so much. So I think that a lot of youth would like to make a change. I think it's really time for a change. So what's the next step if those who want to go volunteer, those who want to support your cause, like, do they go to your website? Do they reach you by email? What's the next step to get in touch with you?
So I think the one-stop platform you guys can go to is Reeling for Queens. I put it in the chat, and you can click on our tab to volunteer, fill out the sheet, and someone will be in contact with you shortly to help volunteer. We're on deadlines, we're on filing deadlines, we're on fundraising deadlines, we're on petitioning deadlines coming up. And, I really do believe in the power of young people. And I think that my experience of just being out of high school and knowing what remote learning is like, knowing what the DOE is doing, knowing how our district is affected, really does make a strong case and really does help to elevate what our parents are going through and students are going through. And I understand what it's like to be used as a prop by elected officials. And that's been a problem that, elected officials will come take a picture at a school, they'll come put their name in a library, they'll host some type of roundtable, but no fruitful action is done, no fruitful, there's nothing productive that comes from them, and students just are left in the dark still and left without the resources they need. So I'm fully for young people and empowering them and getting them involved in this campaign, because one thing I hope that my run does symbolize and encourage and show young people that you can run for office. The legal limit to run for city council is 18 years old. And if you have ideas, if you know how to best represent your community, their concerns, then run, get involved with the local campaign, get involved with your local elected official. So again, realingforqueens.com, click on our volunteer tab, and we would love to have anybody come and volunteer and help out in any way that we can work out.
Thank you so much for this time. And really, bravo, kudos to you. I tip my hat. Look at that. You're 18. You're going to be a change maker in one way or another. And I really hope that you do get elected and that, this is a fruitful opportunity for you to really showcase that someone this young can really make and be a voice and an instrument for change. Bravo. And I cannot say thank you enough, because this is something that we need now more than ever. And to just sit back passively, it's truthfully not something that I'm doing myself. As you can see, I'm here this evening with you as well. So this is extremely important, and supporting all these various causes is very important. I'm speaking to you not only as a small business owner and not only as an educator, a lifelong educator, I'm speaking to you as a mother, as a parent myself, just really trying to do what's right for the community, for my children, for my home, for my income, to try to, have some sort of stability. And again, it is almost impossible to plan anything right now when there are just quite a few unilateral decisions being made. And it's really just inspiring. And I believe I'm speaking on behalf of quite a few parents and those who are in the chat right now and in the participants in the Zoom meeting, that we need this inspiration now more than ever. And I just want to thank you so much for fighting the great fights and elevating family voices, because that's what you're doing right now. You are being the voice for a lot who cannot speak right now. Everyone, thank you so much for listening and participating. And we're going to have this recording on the Queller Prep channel really soon. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Seth. It was really great to virtually. Okay. All right. Take care. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Everyone, thank you.